family, how are you? These three training sessions are based on working safely in the construction industry, and it's a unit of competency CPC WHS 1001. Thanks for coming. And the primary purpose of this is to fulfil a requirement to deliver 3 30-minute training sessions as part of my TAE 40122, Certificate 4 in Training and Education. So I appreciate you guys availing yourselves for this next 90 minutes. We'll aim to stick with it as quickly as possible, and I haven't put my timer on, which is terrible. I'll make it 8:05. Before we get started, I just need to go through some housekeeping. So standard practice is not to look at your cheat sheet, but I'm going to, and I don't know what I've done with it. Here it is. If for whatever reason we need to leave the building, we all know which way it is, because we live here, out the front door or out the back door, be as dramatic as you like. I just want to make sure that the floor is clear, there's no trip hazards and everything. The amenities, the toilet is obviously in that way. You guys comfortable? Ergonomics is alright. Can you see the screen, Toby?
Yes.
We've given you a nice close position for the vision impaired. The lighting level's alright. There's no emergency exits. We've spoken about the toilets. If you guys need to have a break at any time, just shout out. We can be completely flexible with that sort of thing. Or if you need a drink, I can accommodate that as well. There is no emergency exit requirement here. And that's about it. Don't injure yourself in the process of going through this 90-minute session. I think the worst thing that will happen is you might get a paper cut. And if you do, I'm a trained first aider, so I can sort you out. Oh, and Ava, you're a nurse, so we're all right. 3 30-minute sessions. At the end of this, there was a request. I'd love to get some verbal feedback on how you found the session, but I've also emailed you guys already a feedback form that I do need to get back. So I'd love you to be able to get it back to me before Saturday afternoon. That'd be great. Thanks. Oh, hang on, I haven't even gone into slide presentation. God, I'm a noter. There you go. How's that? Better? Coach?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. What we'll cover. This course is based on a national unit of competency, as I said, CPC WHS 1001, and it's recognised as prepared to work safely in the construction industry. Upon completion of all the modules, you're awarded a white card, which is what you can see there. And that's completion of all the competencies, all 15 of them. But today we're only going to go through 5. So it's an abridged version just to meet the requirements of my 3 training sessions. And yeah, as I said, as you can see there, that's my construction industry card. And Kobe, you've obviously got one of those. You got one of those?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got one of those as well. So, and that entitles you to work. And that's a requirement in the industry here. In Victoria and also nationwide to complete this unit of competency to work in construction anywhere.
Is there an expiry on those?
There's no expiry until the unit of competency gets updated, and then it doesn't expire, but if you have any additional training in externally, it's a prerequisite that's updated as well. Introductory modules over the next 3 30-minute sessions. We're going to explore the following. The first 30 minutes is going to be our statutory responsibilities and duty of care. Then we're going to move into construction safe work practices, and finally we'll go through construction hazards identified and the purpose and use of PPE. There's some activities and assessments throughout as well, so watch your space. So what is construction, Kobe? What's construction?
Building.
Building. Ava, what's your take on construction?
Building?
Building.
Same.
Same? No? Same? Right, you guys are all great contributors, thanks. Safe Work Australia defines construction work as any work carried out in connection with the construction, alteration, conversion, fitting out, commissioning, renovation, repair, maintenance and refurbishment, demolition, decommissioning or dismantling of a structure. Building. Or ripping down. Or fixing it up. So it's, yes, yeah.
We're all right.
So what was that?
We were all right.
You're all right. Well done. Yeah. Shall we continue? So we all know what construction is now.
Yeah.
That is not on any of the assessments, so we can move forward. What governs us when looking at safety in construction? So there are three overarching frameworks that support the safety in construction, and I'll go through them now. First off, and most significantly, is the OH&S Act. The OH&S Act is the overarching principle or law that is set by all individual states. So I need you to remember that it's the OH&S Act is the law. That's probably something to consider as we go through it. Yeah, and take notes at any time. Well done.
Has every state got different OH&S?
Yeah, so the intent of it will be very similar, but it's all written and managed by each individual state. So the message will be the same, and the large part of what is written will be recognised across all states, but all states independently manage it. Mm-hmm. And we can expand on that a little bit more when I just finish with the other two documents. The OH&S Act is in place to protect the health and safety and welfare of employees. And as I said, this one is specific to Victoria. Any questions about the OH&S Act?
No.
Cool. The next framework or model that is applied to safety in construction are the regulations. Now, the regulations differ from the Act, which is the law. The regulations in Victoria are recognised as the Occupational Health and Safety Regulations of 2017. The regs are effectively the rules that are applied when fulfilling the responsibilities of the Act. So, does that make sense as to what the Act is? Yeah?
Yeah.
Can somebody put that into plain English? Does anybody have any appreciation as to what that would look like? So if the Act, where are we? If the Act is the law and the regulations are the rules. I've jumped ahead one too many. These are the rules that are applied to business and the way they function properly. I'll go into some detail. I've got some documents that I'll show you that will explain it a little more in a second. And then lastly is the Code of Practice. Now the Code of Practice isn't just one document, it's a suite of documents that are written to cover off on multiple different facets in all industry, not just construction, but they do apply to construction. These are the guidance documents designed to assist both employers and employees to meet their workplace health and safety compliance obligations. So these are the guidelines in the workplace on how you conduct yourself. Yeah? And that's to meet the requirements of the regulations, and the regulations are there to support the law or the Act. So I do have, where are my flyers? I'll put them somewhere. I've got some copies here of, this is just the first page of the first few pages of the Act and the regulations, and then I've got a snippet from the first aid compliance, code of compliance. What I wanted to do is just really quickly read to you what the purpose of each is, because I think it'll really paint a picture for you as to what it means. So this is the document you can get online. It's free. It's accessible for all. The main purpose of the Act are to create a legislative framework to give effect to the objects of this Act and repeal the Occupational Health and Safety Act of 1985, which is the previous one. To provide for matters of transitional nature to make consequential amendments. Okay, so this is the purpose of the Act. The objects, which is what will really probably assist in your understanding of it, the objects of this act are to secure the health and safety and welfare of employees and other persons at work, and to eliminate at the source of risk to health, safety and welfare of employees and other persons at work, to ensure that health and safety of members of the public is not placed at risk by conduct of undertakings of employers, self-employed persons, and to provide for the involvement of employers and organisations representing those persons in the formulation and implementation of health and safety welfare. That is the Act, the law. The regs, I've just got to the back page. The objectives of the reg is providing for health and safety in relation to workplace hazards, activities and things at workplaces. Providing for the management of asbestos-containing material in workplaces and the removal of asbestos and the licensing of asbestos removalists. Providing for safe operation of major hazards facilities and mines. Specifying training requirements for certain persons engaged in construction work and at workplaces, and providing for licensing at certain persons' engagements. So, as I said before, the Act very much sort of stipulates the requirements of the law. But these are what were these?
The rules.
The rules. So these give you the rules. These give you what licensing is required, what the regulations look like. Yeah, and as you drill down into these, I listed it for future reference if it comes up again, but I've just given a list that's in the Act, and it talks about the controlling of risk, the rules about controlling risk. It talks about the rules that are involved with asbestos, so on and so forth. You don't get that in the Act, you do get that in the regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly is the Code of Practice. And the Code of Practice, the purpose of the code is to provide practical guidance to employers on how to comply with the duties under the OH&S Act, and to provide adequate workplace facilities, in particular for first aid facilities. This one was drawn from the first aid. The scope, this code provides for information for employers in relation to providing adequate first aid facilities in the workplace, including accessing first aid needs, first aid kits, first aid rooms, number of first aid officers, and training and first aid procedures. So it gives you the guidelines on how a workplace should create that type of environment. That one, specific to first aid. Cool. Any questions about those three?
That's right.
Fantastic. Here we go for time. We'll move on. Duty of care, your roles inside OH&S. Roles and responsibilities. Under the OHS Act 2004, there are safety duties that must be maintained by both employer and employee. So this is your duty of care, yeah, and your employer's duty of care. For the employer, they must provide and maintain a working environment that is safe and free from risks to health, so far as reasonably practical. As part of this, the employers must give employees the necessary information, instruction, training and supervision to enable them to do their work in a way that is safe and without risk to health. That clear? Mm-hmm. Everybody understands that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want you guys to think about your own workplaces when we go through this as well. Provide suitable facilities for welfare at any workplace. An employer manages and controls. So they need to look after you. Look after you, yeah.
Is that like not from a portaloo on a job site?
Yeah. Provide suitable facilities. They need to provide somewhere, so if you want to talk about a toilet, they need to provide somewhere, and it does come up later that we talk about that, but they need to provide you with somewhere to go to the toilet. Now that might not necessarily be provide you with the toilet, but in your situation where you're independent of a fixed location, what they could do to support that is identify where you're working and where the closest toilet is. So that it just takes that away from you and it empowers you to go, right, if I need to go to the toilet, that's the one that I need to go to. Keep workplaces that you manage and control in a safe operation, free from risk of health. So we will expand on that a little further as well. Ensure the safe use, handling, storage or transport of plant or substances. So managing equipment and supplies, and in a hospital ABA, that's managing pharmaceuticals and chemicals and keeping the employees safe. Provide and maintain a safe system of work, for example, controlling the entry to high-risk areas and providing systems to prevent falls from height. So, Naya, at work, when you're at work, do you have a warehouse facility at the back?
Yeah.
Do you have a chariot or a ladder or something that you need to climb to get up to a high?
Yeah.
Is it got rails on the side of it?
Not really, no.
Right. Okay, well, there goes my classic example that I was going to draw from on in.
Yeah.
That's not safe.
That's not safe. No, that's an example of not safe. Have you got an example of safeness? You work in transport, logistics and warehousing?
I actually work from home, so.
Well, you do work from home. What's a safe example of something safe here at home? A handrail that we don't have on the stairs?
Yeah, maybe that.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah. Just imaginary as well.
Yeah. Lastly, provide and maintain safe plant, machinery and equipment. So they're a snapshot of what the employer must do for the employee.
Is that like invoking zones, like area, what is it called?
Excavation zones?
Yeah.
Isolate, yeah, absolutely. So depending on the task or the situation that you're in, specifically to construction, there's always isolations.
Exclusion zones.
Exclusion zones. And if you want to cast your eye across to any major construction in the city, how much signage and how many barriers there are, and then they've always got their cones out and they might have a traffic person. That's absolutely creating...
Do you have exclusion zones when the excavators are in use?
No, because there's not many people around. It's only just me and the excavator, whereas in commercial there's a million people running around, so you have to bunt off the area because the operator can't be looking around. They don't have eyes in the back of their head all the time, so...
It's true.
Yeah.
Duty of care for the employee inside the occupational health and safety model. Don't intentionally or recklessly interfere with or misuse anything in the workplace that supports the health and safety and welfare of others. Do you guys understand what that might mean? Yeah.
Don't tamper with stuff.
Yeah, don't tamper with stuff. Don't create something that can become an issue. Cooperate with your employer about any action they take to comply with the OH&S Act or regulations. For example, use equipment properly, follow the safe working policies and procedures, and attend training. So if there's a right way to go about things, it should be explained to you by your employer. You should be trained and competent to use a particular bit of equipment, tooling, machinery or plant. And then the expectation on the employee is to conduct themselves in such a fashion.
So if you refuse to be trained, is that a dismissal?
That's not
Is it?
It's not necessarily. That's more of an occupational health and safety question. More a HR related question inside business and occupational health and safety. And it differ from in all workplaces. What I would like to think from a training capacity inside a construction industry is that if you said no from the get-go, that I could work with you to bring you up to speed and make you feel comfortable and confident to actually want to use that bit of machinery or whatever the situation is. Yeah. Take reasonable care for your health and safety in the workplace. You must also take reasonable care for the health and safety of others who may be affected by what you do or do not do. To look after each other. And that's pretty much it for that. I've got a very short video. This will run in really well. Now, I'm hoping that's not going to go. I'm going to...
ergonomics, and in this series we try...
Bear with me. I've got a little video that sort of summarises what we've just been through there, and I apologise that for some reason I can't link it across to there, so you'll have to watch it online. At the end of this, we'll have a little quiz to take a couple of minutes to watch Michael talk about health and safety duties in Australia. This Michael, not this Michael.
Hi, and welcome to our 5-minute safety video series. My name's Michael Terry, I'm from Momentum Safety and Ergonomics, and in this series we try and tackle important health and safety topics, and we try and get it done in around about 5 minutes. Today we're going to be tackling health and safety duties under the Work Health and Safety Act in Australia. This video is a follow-up from the Work Health and Safety legislation video that we covered previously. Okay, I think there are three main players in the game when it comes to those who have duties under the Work Health and Safety Act. Those players are firstly the business or undertaking itself. And this is going to include your company, but may also include other non-business type undertakings. It does not include volunteer associations that are 100% volunteer associations and don't employ any people. The second player is the officer of the business or undertaking, and this is defined as those who have significant influence over the running of the business, and it's actually defined under the Corporations Act. And the third player are the workers, and this will include middle management or those who have supervisory capacity, but also other workers who don't have that type of capacity. So jumping straight in, the first player was the business or undertaking, and the business itself has specific duties for health and safety, and these are to ensure, so far as reasonably practicable, the health and safety of its workers. Now that's a very general statement, and the Act goes on to give us a bit more information about what that might include. So it includes things like making sure you have a safe working environment, that you have safe plant and structures, such as good maintenance, safe systems of work, such as good risk assessments and safe work procedures. You have appropriate processes to handle chemicals and substances, that you have an appropriate information, training and instruction regime, which will include our induction and training systems, that we have appropriate welfare facilities for workers, such as appropriate drinking water, all the simple stuff like that, and that we have ways of monitoring workers' health and the business conditions or the safety conditions within the business itself. Those are the key duties for the business or undertaking. Now, the officer themselves also have specific duties under the Act, and these duties are defined as due diligence, a specific definition. They are individual duties, and an officer themselves can be held individually liable for not complying with them. Those duties include appropriate knowledge of health and safety and of the risks and hazards within your own company. So you've got to understand the health and safety profile of your own company. You must have appropriate actions in place, which are including providing appropriate resource, appropriate information gathering systems, and making sure through appropriate verification, such as audits, that these processes are being implemented into the workplace. All these things are individual actions for officers. Now, the third player was the worker, and every worker must make sure they take reasonable steps to ensure their own health and safety. But they also must take reasonable steps to ensure their acts or omissions or their conduct does not adversely affect the health and safety of someone else. This is particularly relevant if you're a supervisor or manager and your actions directly control the way another person might act. Workers themselves must comply with appropriate instructions and policies and procedures as long as they're reasonable and as long as they've been notified about them. There are penalties associated with non-compliance for these duties, and these penalties have three different categories. We won't go into a lot of detail, but category 1 is the highest and category 3 is the lowest. They depend on the seriousness of the potential risk or injury, but also how reckless it's perceived that the individual or company was. Also, it will depend on whether you're a company, an officer, or an individual as to what the fine may be or what potential jail time might be as well. Now, keep in mind, the information on this slide is maximum penalties, and these are rarely applied. So there we go. Very quick summary of the health and safety duties under the Australian Work Health and Safety legislation. Key takeaways are that we have key duties for businesses, officers and workers. Every business must ensure the health and safety of its workers so far as reasonably practical. That's the key overarching duty of them all. If you're an officer within a business, i.e. a person who has significant control, then you must exercise due diligence. And if you're a worker, you must make sure that your actions don't adversely affect the health and safety of others, and that you comply with reasonable policies, procedures and instructions. We'll have links to more detail on every one of these duties in the final slide of the video. But other than that, thank you for listening. This has been our 5-minute health and safety video on work health and safety duties within Australia.
Hopefully you guys got something out of that. In the interest of time, I'll jump ahead. I've got a little assessment. It shouldn't be too difficult for you to do, just on this module. So if you guys can take the time to pop your name up the top and just complete the few questions that we've put down here, just recognising that you got something out of that, and with a little bit of time permitting, I talked to what you did. I downloaded on WorkSafe website, you can actually download court cases and penalties for businesses and their misgivings when it comes to occupational health and safety. And I took the liberty of printing a couple out. If we have enough time, I'll read one to you.
Can't read my own writing.
Cool. Everybody done? And if you popped your name up the top of it, that'd be great.
Yep.
Awesome. No worries. Let me just take control of this again. Escape. And go back to my presentation. You guys can see the monitor. Where are we? Why can't I see it? There. Oh, I lost it. Here we are. So in summary, we've just been through the legal framework. The IH&S Act is the law. The IH&S regs, or the regulations, are the rules, and the code of practice is the guidelines. We also covered off on the duty of care, and that employers, and the essence of the duty of care is that employers must provide and maintain a safe workplace, and employees must care for their own health and safety and the safety of others in the workplace. One thing I did want to point out is that Michael in that video referenced 3 people, that there's the business, the officer and the worker. You can look at the business as the executives or a business owner. The officers are not necessarily supervisors and managers, they're more officers of the business. So you'll find the operations manager, their HR manager, not people that are actively engaged in the revenue making for the business activity. They're more that oversee the operation of the business, and that's the distinction there. They are representatives of the business. So there's 3 types of prosecution that can happen, and persecution. 1 is the executives or the owners. 2 is the officers, who are, as I explained, operations managers, HR, etc., health and safety individuals. And then the workers are supervisory management, and obviously employees in construction, that's the field employees or the tradies, etc. So hopefully you got a bit out of that session. Thanks for participating in that one. I'll end it there. I'll just stop the camera, we'll have a reset, and then I'll get going into the next session in a minute. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Michael.